There's a few workshops that have been taking place. So my name is Victor Sanchez Lopez. I'm the Associate Director for Student Involvement, and I will be the one hosting this session today that is about getting involved. So today we'll be sharing some useful information about getting involved as a student now that you're coming here to McGill. Note that the session is being recorded and there's a Q&A option for you to ask questions. We will have a period at the end of the session where we will be answering those questions as well. And again, don't hesitate to interact, put them down there, write them down, and then interrupt me if needed. But yeah, I hope this is as clear as possible. Please note that all of your microphones are currently off. We're going to keep them off, muted for the presentation part of the webinar, but it's just to ensure that everyone can hear. And again, if you do not feel comfortable asking a question once the microphones are open or once the presentation is over and we have a more of an interactive type of portion, don't hesitate to write your question, of course, in the Q&A. I see some that are already coming in, so that's perfect. Now, so first and foremost, I wanted to start with the land acknowledgement. So, this might be something new to some of you. So we just wanted to clarify what the land acknowledgement is. So it's really to bring awareness to Canada's colonial history and acknowledge the Indigenous communities who are still active on this land. They also work towards reconciliation between institutions such as McGill, individuals, and Indigenous communities. And if you're interested in learning more about land acknowledgements, we do encourage you to go to Canada's the website nativeland.ca, and then you can learn about Canada's Indigenous past, their communities, the history of colonialism in Canada. And again, so we do encourage you also to reflect on where you're joining us from. So also of the we're all from different places and backgrounds. So it's nice to reflect on where we're standing now. And just for you to know, the McGill University is on a land which has long served as a site of meeting and exchange amongst Indigenous peoples, including the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe nations. And we acknowledge and thank the diverse Indigenous peoples whose presence marks this territory on which people of the world now gather. So without further ado, we will go to the next section, which has to do with why did you come here today? So again, this is something that you can reflect upon while you're listening to the presentation and what you're hoping to learn from this presentation. Just to give you an idea of what we will be covering is really what does getting involved mean? So you'll see there's various ways to get involved when you're in university, when you're in a school like McGill, of course. So again, the idea is for you to gain value or insight of what's the purposes, what are the purposes behind involvement, what is a unit like ours, Campus Life and Engagement, therefore, and how we can support you. And then, of course, showcasing a few opportunities that are on campus, off campus, and of course, answer your questions at the very end. So again, please note that, as you transition, it's a question that we often get, like, why should I join this club? How should I manage my time? How should I manage my time between involvement and student associations, groups, and of course, your academic deliverables, exams, and whatnot. So we hope that this session brings clarity to those questions. Again, I think one of the most important things to ask is, what does getting involved mean, right? So, of course, it's a way to gain skills. Most people associate getting involved with joining clubs and other groups on campus. So this is definitely a very straightforward way to build a social circle, get to know other people that share the same interests as you. But know that there's also many other ways of getting involved on and off campus. Another way of getting involved is volunteering. So again, there's different ways of volunteering as well, and we will be showcasing a few of those. There's short-term volunteering. You can give 4 hours a week, for example. You can choose to give your time to one organization or several organizations, and you can do so like once as per term, twice per term, on a regular basis every week, for example. So there's a wide range of a range of options, and it's true that once you join, you are solicited and you will be receiving this type of information. So it's good afterwards to ask yourself, what are you willing to do? What do you have time to do? And then move forward with your analysis of, different opportunities that you might do. There's also taking advantage of services and resources on campus. So again, throughout the semester, you might need support, either for academics, for social needs, for mental health needs, and there's many, many resources available. Know that many groups and organizations across campus and units across campus have peer services. So of course, if you're in need, you can, reach out to those, but also you can act as a peer supporter. So let's say you want to get involved in a way that is a more direct contact with your peers, you want to meet others, and let's say you have an affinity for personal relationships and like giving one-on-one support. That is actually a really good way also to give back. So just to give you an idea, there are over 50 programs of peer support. Let it be mentorship programs that are formal or informal, offered by faculties, offered by units like ours, offered also by associations, student-led groups, and whatnot. So, mentoring is a way of giving back, and is, is a type of service that is also important, and that can also be recognized throughout your studies at McGill. And of course, there's advocacy. So you can think of political activism, getting involved in causes that you feel strongly about. It can be housing rights, human rights, and whatnot. And again, you can even do it more formally if you wish to join, let's say, a group as an executive, or be elected and participate, in that sort of active way of advocacy and like student representation and so on. So again, this is just to give you an idea of what we mean when we say getting involved, which can be very large. Now, the question that we often get is why. Like it's a key component. Why is getting involved important? So again, I think like it's important to know that while we're in universities, some of the best years, and also when you have also time to just get to know yourself, meet other people, meet your peers and whatnot. So if you're coming from another city, from another country, or even if you're from Montreal, but you're from, where everyone is new to McGill, it's actually a really nice way to meet people who have interests that are similar to you, right? It can also be an outlet for academics, for mental health or well-being. So again, we know that, studying your classes, they are very, very important, but it's also good to have a support system, a network of people that you might know, with whom you can share interests, and you have affinities as well, just to take a break sometimes. Is a good enough reason to get involved, and have that in your schedule, from one week to another, and so on and so forth. And it really helps, it contributes to just an overall well-being while you're in university. Another reason to get involved is really to try something new. So that's when you're in college, when you're in university, perfect time to sort of get out of your comfort zone. We can think of formal things like debate clubs, or, public speaking clubs. If it's something that you're interested in singing, dancing. It can also be more academic, like science-based clubs. That's another type of involvement. Or sports, for example. You can join a group that is keen on doing those, or just purely fun. It can also be just a hobby, or, nature groups and so on. So again, it might be a way for you to finally try something that you've always wanted to try, in what's often considered a safe space, right? Because it's all students with the same affinity, same interest as you. So it's a good way to get out of your comfort zone. Again, thinking ahead. So again, now you're beginning your journey here at McGill, but if we think ahead of skills, or things that you would like to develop. We can think of the future, right? Of employment, the job after our studies, and so on. So you can gain valuable experience, and a way of giving back is also like identifying things that you want to get experience on. So you can think of like some like team management, leadership roles, things like that. They can really help you develop certain skills that will definitely be transferred to the job and employment and things like that. Again, something that's also important to consider is networking. So again, going back to meeting new people, there's meeting new people to make friends, but then there's also, let's say, we're thinking of graduate students. If you're like networking is very important just to meet either funding opportunities, have members that can, or other peers that can support the research that you're doing, for example. And let's say we're thinking of engineering, management, or whatnot. If you want to go into a specific field, getting involved may allow you to network and meet people that otherwise you would have not met in different settings. So again, you can be very intentional about the choices you make and about the groups or the activities that you join, with that perspective in mind of being like, I want to meet this type of people. I want to be more acquainted with this type of sector or with this type of industry, for example, and then seek those type of networking opportunities. Again, I mentioned it earlier, was more hobbies and interests. It can only be, again, just as an outlet, just be fun. You can get involved just to have extracurriculars after your class, after your week or whatnot, and just really, really just enjoy, have fun, and join a group of people that have the same interest as you. So again, going back to that is really important, and we'll see it a little bit later in the presentation, to just think like, why am I doing this, and what's of really interest to me. Again, something that we wanted to circle back is, who is Campus Life and Engagement? So again, you might know us already for all of the orientation activities that we do. So again, our mandate is really to be here for you in like everything that's extracurricular, and also to help you navigate your years while you're here at McGill. So we're a team that includes Ask McGill navigators. So again, you will see us on campus. You can ask your questions. And again, our goal is really to guide you through your McGill journey. So maybe we don't have all the answers, but our goal is really to support you and guide you and lead you to the right office, the right service, and whatnot, and really like just give you advice. We have different types of interactive sessions, workshops, and also fun activities. I have to say we're like a very fun unit to be around, just because it's engaging and whatnot. We are also charged in everything that has to do of peer support and mentorship programs. So as I mentioned, there's around over 50 mentorship programs offered here at McGill. They can be at faculty level, program level, student-led mentorship programs, and of course, programs like ours. So again, everyone that joined us today, if you haven't done so yet, we do encourage you to join the New Student Body Program. It's a program that we manage within our office, and the goal is really to get you paired up with a student who has been in your shoes, quote unquote. So is non-academic. The idea is just to help you transition into university, give you advice on, can be as basic as, where do I do my groceries, to more like, how do I manage Minerva, or like, how do I access these systems and whatnot. So really, it's a very friendly type of mentorship program. And then ultimately, we're here also to build your skills and help you make connections here at McGill and beyond. So again, there's a lot of activities that we put forward, like mixers, like volunteering opportunities, for example, just for you to get acquainted with what volunteering is. And the idea is really just to guide you from those social events to more hands-on community activities that we're part of. And we'll explore a little bit of those later on in the presentation. But again, know that you can always book an appointment with us. It's something that not everyone does, but you can go to our website and book an appointment to ask your questions. And again, follow us on social media and whatnot to know what we're doing throughout the year. Now, we did want to give you an idea of what student services are, just because many offices across student services offer many involvement opportunities. So again, if you're thinking of where would you want to give my time, or where would I want to volunteer, there's offices like ours that really offer volunteering on the community, volunteering opportunities and whatnot. But the mission at large of student services is to help you navigate, a university life and achieve your academic goals, and providing inclusive support services, connections, and really an environment that it's welcoming and caring. And know that if we're thinking of career planning services, international student services, accessibility and achievement, more so the Office for Religious and Spiritual Life, the Wellness Hub as well, there's always a chance and always a call for peers to join as either peer mentors, peer volunteers for different events throughout the year. You can be part of those as well. So, one thing is to use them. If you need them, please access them. If you need career advice, if you need wellness advice, spiritual advice and whatnot, these services are there for you. But also, if you want to get involved, you can be guided, and these services can also offer opportunities to, do mentorship, participate in different types of events that you wouldn't have participated otherwise, and so on. So again, it was it was important for us to just show you the array of opportunities. And again, we also are part of Student Life and Learning. So the bigger family, which also includes athletics and recreation, a great unit if you, again, for those who are sport savvy and they want to be part of a team and whatnot, also a great way to get involved. You have enrollment services. There's many, some of you might know them and have known them, from like activities that we do to, open house for people to visit McGill and whatnot. So another great way for people to discover McGill and for students to get involved, again, to volunteer and give your time. It's really fun most of the time. And so on and so forth. For those who will be in residence, know that there's also ways of getting involved within your residences. Often there's like some sort of residence groups, clubs, things like that. So it's also a good way to, meet others and find a way, to get involved in different groups that you're interested in. Now, just to give you again an idea of where does it come from and where does it all tie in. So again, today we're focusing a lot on the social aspect of school, I would say, of university. So again, the idea and also what we want to emphasize in this presentation is that, of course, studying is important, and we're here at McGill, of course. And just as a background, I'm also an alum. So I also came to McGill back in the day. And of course, we're here to study, right? To do our degrees, to discover what we want, what we need, and so on. But again, you need different types of tools, not only academic, but also social, spiritual, cultural, emotional, physical, and so on. So again, we just want to showcase the fact that, getting involved, even if it requires sometimes very firm commitments, sometimes it's really, really flexible. But again, it's something important to consider just in your experience at large, after you're here between 3 to 5 years or so. So, it's important to consider and, take advantage of being here and getting involved. So again, for those who have a piece of paper or want to think about this and just take note, again, you can watch this recording after as well. So how to get involved? So this is maybe like the question that we get the most often. So honestly, our first piece of advice is think about you and what you want to get involved with, right? So again, it goes back to the reasons of involvement, and it's fair. All reasons are fair. It can be because you want to make friends. It can be because you are really interested, let's say, in gardening, or you're like you want to get more into athletics, or you're passionate about a subject and want to go into advocacy and join a group and be very vocal about public policy or things like that. So it's really important to think about what you like, what you want. Again, getting out of your comfort zone, if that's the case, what you want to achieve while you're here at McGill, and also see it maybe as a medium to long-term plan. So again, you will see at the beginning of the term, you will receive a lot of flyers a lot of informations, a lot of solicitations, and often there's this fear of missing out. So a piece of advice thinking about yourself is also consider that you're here for, again, 3 to 5 years. So it's not necessary to do everything all at once. So again, our second point is how much time do you have? And that's important just to consider. And it's something that is really personal because and that it can change, right? And you might need more time for certain things during the fall of this year, but maybe in 2 years' time you will have a little bit more time, and then you can actually get involved in other types of activities and whatnot. And again, the fit within your interests and needs is really important. It's something that we consider to be really, really important, just because any type of volunteering is a commitment, right? So you're giving your time and you want it to fit really what you're looking for. The second piece of advice is find out what's happening in the McGill community. So again, being in a place like McGill, there's so many things taking place and there's so many options that it's really, really nice to just, first of all, get to know what's going on. And that already is like a really big step. So you can go to events, talk to groups. If you're more introverted, because that's also, we all have different personalities and whatnot, focus on smaller type of events, small scale, within your faculty, within your residents and whatnot. But it's get out there. Like like when you're here at McGill, it's a good place to just get out there and, start talking to others and see like, oh, that seems interesting. You can attend a session, especially at the beginning of each term. There's often like introductory sessions just to get to know the clubs, groups, services, student associations, or whatnot. You can ask for advice. So again, there's units like ours where you can literally book an appointment and ask for advice if you feel a little bit lost. But otherwise, ask to your colleagues, your peers, other students, your advisors and whatnot. Faculty reps, if they have any advice, of what would be a nice group or a nice activity to do. There's tools that will showcase a little bit, like it's platforms available here at McGill, like My Involvement. It's an online portal where you can find events throughout the year. We will should be sharing more info on that. And of course, I acknowledge that sometimes, and you will be receiving a lot of emails from student associations, from units and whatnot. But really, there's some that are really worth it. Just again, thinking of the involvement and the opportunities is worth taking a look. And of course, social media, right? Like most of us now are there, and units like ours share most opportunities there as well. The third piece of advice that we have is get in contact with the group organization of your choice. So that's really good, right? Because it's like everything in life. One thing is what you understand or your perception of the group, of the event that you want to volunteer at, of the type of organization that you're volunteering with, of the type of task that is being asked of you. And then another one is to get a first-hand account, right? So we always recommend for you to do your research. And if needed, get in touch with the group rep, with the organization. If you're really keen, let's say, and I'm thinking, for example, of students that would eventually like to go to med school. We know that volunteering within, hospital, long-term care facilities, things like that, is very highly recognized, and it's actually something that gets you acquainted and it makes you it's sometimes really well seen, and it's a very intentional type of involvement. And that you would absolutely like to volunteer at, let's say, a hospital, like the MUHC, McGill University Health Center. Well, there's mailing lists that you can join for their volunteering and so on. And once you do that, and once you see a position that you like, you can ask questions. So you can email, you can contact the volunteering supervisor, and ask your questions, to gain and learn a little bit more of an insight of what the volunteering position is. And again, all of this is for you to know if this is the right fit, of course. And ultimately, once you've made your decision, once you've committed somewhere, show up. So showing up is really something very important in regards to volunteering. And it goes back to the first piece of advice. Think about yourself and the time that you have to offer. Because it's true that in volunteering, many organizations are non-for-profit organizations. Many organizations are counting on volunteers for you to show up and whatnot. So it's important that once you've made a commitment, to honor the commitment, try to be consistent. And of course, I mean, things happen, life happens. Sometimes you cannot make it. Sometimes you need to, cancel a commitment and whatnot, but just communicate. So that's like the last piece of advice. Just let them know. If for any reason you cannot show up, is really, really important just to let them know, and let others know what you think if you're interested in a project and whatnot. So now moving forward of where to find volunteering opportunities. There's different tools here at McGill, and you'll get easily acquainted. Again, this might seem like a lot now, but the more you use them, the easier it gets. The first one is My Future. So My Future is going to be really important also for career. So that's where you find jobs as well. But there's a brand new volunteer opportunities board. And again, know that you have access by default. So using your McGill email, your McGill credentials, you'll have access to this system. And we have hundreds of organizations across Montreal posting volunteering opportunities right there and then. And there's different types of opportunities. Sometimes they are really like event-based and fun. So maybe and maybe like next summer, or for those who are here in Montreal this summer, there's a lot of festivals, for example, taking place. And many of those offer volunteer positions. There is cancer runs, or like in the city. There's also like the Santa Claus parade, for example, and things like that. So those are very punctual and fun activities that you can volunteer for. And then there's also more serious volunteering opportunities that are there. For example, for long-term homes, for to volunteer within elementary schools, for example, and be a tutor, or be a big brother, big sister program type of scenarios. So again, there's all types of opportunities that you can find there. So we do encourage you, once you have time, to go look into My Future and the Volunteer Opportunities Board. Within the mentorship network, again, for those who are already part of the New Student Body program, eventually you can volunteer as a mentor. So again, most of you, I think, are currently benefiting from being a mentee. So someone who is, being accompanied by an upper year student. But eventually you can also become a mentor and join a group. So again, there's our program, but there's many, many other programs. And know that most of those programs offer recognition. So we'll go into that a little bit more later, but your involvement can be recognized as well. And in that platform, we also host different groups, and there's a volunteer and community engagement group. So again, if you're really interested and keen in volunteering, you can join that group, and then there's opportunities that are being shared. People mention that they need support for this or that event. So the idea is just to have a place where you can find those opportunities. And of course, there's the First Friends group for international students. Here at CLE, we also offer positions that are called days of service. So again, let's say that you don't have too much time, or you want to get acquainted with volunteering, and you're like, okay, well, this is my first year. I would love to volunteer, but let's say I only have 1 hour, 3 hours, 4 hours a week, and I cannot commit long term. That's fine. Like, these days of service is really short-term group volunteer placements around Montreal, and it's really like it can be a one-off scenario. So you go there once and that's it. If you really enjoy it and have time, can sign up for more than once, and they take place during the first 6 weeks of the term. So know that that's a possibility, and it's like a first step, quote unquote, to get acquainted with volunteering and getting involved. And of course, eventually next year, if you want to volunteer, or as early as winter, there's a lot of volunteering opportunities really to support students. So as you'll see when you come to McGill, we are organizing many events, hosting many services fairs, workshops, and whatnot. And you can volunteer for those. So it's one of the, I think, more active roles that you'll see on campus when you come in, to volunteer for orientation events during fall and winter. Again, just going back to the types of volunteering. So this is one type of service that we're doing, the Days of Service. So Welcome Mission Hall, or Mission Bon Accueil, is an organization that supports vulnerable populations. And what we do is we do food sorting. So basically, there's donations that are given to the center, and then we do the different types of parcels, different types of boxes, just to food sort for the week ahead. It's very short term. It's 1 to 3 p.m. every other Friday. And if you're interested in doing that, know that you can sign up on My Involvement. Now, going to another type of volunteering or involvement, of course, is university-level student societies like the SMU. So know that every undergrad is a member of SMU, and there's different ways of getting involved. Again, key roles, and again, this can be a workshop in itself, but there's advocacy groups just to champion student rights and interest. There's community support. So again, there's over 250 clubs and services and student initiatives that you can gain access through the SMU, notably. And it can be really fun. It can be, again, for leisure or for more serious topics. There's very, very many ways to get involved. There's also inclusive spaces within the university center, so the SMU building, that promote equity, fostering safe environment. We can think of groups like Queer McGill, for example, and so on and so forth. And sustainability. Of course, many groups that encourage eco-friendly practices. Again, I'll go into details of another event that's coming that you can definitely attend if you're interested in having like a first-hand look at all of these groups. But SMU operates in the university center, so it's a building in itself, and it's your hub for student activities, resources, collaborations, and many groups have their office within the building. Overall, we did want to highlight, again, the 250 clubs. There's around 18 services that are offered. We can think of WorkSafe, that you will learn if you need so, that they can accompany you through campus. If you, let's say, are finishing an exam late at night and you would like just to be accompanied back to your residence, for example, that's a service. And often those services recruit volunteers. And there's also more than 10 independent student groups. So they are outside of the SMU structure, but they are often incorporated as non-for-profit organizations, again, also seeking volunteering and whatnot. So you can definitely look into those once you're here. Again, we did want to highlight also for graduate students, the same sort of dynamic exists through PGSS. So PGSS is the Postgraduate Student Society. So again, it represents, supports, advocates for all graduate and postdoctoral students at McGill. And again, one of the neat ways of getting involved within PGSS is their committees. So they have a variety of committees. They are very, very structured, and they focus on diverse aspects of student life. Again, we can think of advocacy for student rights and things like that. And there's really a lot of ways to get involved, a little bit like SMU, but with a focus on graduate and postdoctoral students. They also offer, just for our graduate students listening, many networking opportunities that have to do with the development of leadership, of course, as graduate students, enjoying a wider social circle. So again, one of the ways that you can get involved is also to network. And again, there's policy making and maybe more governance-based skills that you can gain. So again, it's really neat and an interested way to look into it. There's also other university-level student societies. So we have for those students that will be at Mac campus, there's the McDonald's Campus Student Society, the McDonald Campus Graduate Student Society, and the McGill Association of Continuing Education Students. So again, all of these instances often a variety of ways of getting involved. And again, it's a little bit more formal, but really interesting to look into if you are interested in this type of service. And again, as I mentioned, many things that are offered once you're on campus. There's your faculty level student societies, right? So we can think of one of the biggest, like the Arts Undergraduate Society, Science Undergraduate Society, Management, Music, Nursing, Agricultural, Engineering, and so on and so forth. So again, each of these student societies offers you possibilities to join committees, to join groups that are faculty led, and to join different types of more executive roles if it's something that is of interest to you. We did want to highlight also, again, and this also often applies more for graduate students, is like getting involved for funding. So again, to fund your ideas or projects, that's also a way of obtaining it. So again, for those who have like the entrepreneurial vibe or the entrepreneurial flair, there's the Dobson Center for Entrepreneurship. Again, you have resources, support. There's mentorship for startups as well, if it's something that is of interest to you. There's the Sustainability Projects Fund that's available for everyone. And that eventually, again, we're providing a lot of info now, but if it's something that is of interest, if you're really keen on environment and sustainability projects, this is really nice because you can actually apply for support. And by support, we mean really funding. So let's say you will see on campus many initiatives that were initiated by students that are now university-wide. And it's actually really neat to see, right? Because there's actual real funding that's available for sustainable practices. So it's something that is worth looking into. So you can make a proposal. There's around different types of the year for different types of amounts. So it can be as little as a couple of $100 to several $1,000 for sustainability practices. Again, for PGSS, so for postdoc graduate students, there's the PGSS grants funds that are offered. There's a lot of events that benefit the graduate community. So again, getting involved with like that networking notion in mind can also be interesting. And this is a way of doing so. There's also crowdfunding for those who are fond of doing those types of projects. There's Seeds of Change available here at McGill. So again, if you want to crowdfund an event, crowdfund an initiative, an activity, sometimes you can crowdfund to, let's say, launch your own club, your own group or whatnot. This is another way of doing so. There's Cooper. They award discretionary funds for small-scale projects. And for graduate students only, the student engagement funds, again, small funding, but can also be offered for student-led community or professional development initiatives. So again, you will have access to this presentation after, but know that maybe not year one, but since you're here for like 3 to 5 years, or sometimes even more, there's different ways of seeing involvement within your studies and afterwards. Now, finally, of course, there's volunteering within Montreal. So we're lucky to be in a city like Montreal. Again, there's vibrant. There's, of course, the French, English option. There's a lot of organization that across and around campus, here downtown and at MAC, that offer volunteering opportunities. To start with, one option is Branches. So Branches is part of enrollment. And they offer programming for a diverse range of students. So let's say they have opportunities for example, for Black students, and they go into high schools across Montreal or on the island, just so showcase higher education, and eventually those students might be interested in joining McGill. And so on. So it's a really fun projects that are hosted by Branches, and they are across Montreal. They are also in some within some indigenous communities as well that are in close proximity to Montreal, and so on. So it's worth looking into if you want to step outside campus. Again, there's also for if you're interested in sustainability, in environment, there's Volontaire. It's really interesting to consider. They offer a large array of opportunities that are very hands-on. If you want to go to like social gardening, community gardens, and so on across the island, they have a good array of opportunities there and different type of advocacy that you can do. Within Montreal and the rest of Canada, there's a volunteer center. It's literally volunteer.ca. So you have the volunteer center, the directory. Again, can be overwhelming. If you are a little bit lost, book an appointment with us. We can help you and guide you through that. But again, depending on your interest, there's different ways of navigating and finding an opportunity or a center or a resource that you're interested in. Same goes for the Montreal Volunteer Bureau, which is the Centre d'Action Bénévole de Montréal. A really interested resource, again, similar to that one of volunteer.ca, but only for Montreal. And there's a platform where all Quebec volunteer centers post their opportunities that is called Révénévole. So you can see it's in French, but it's available in English, I believe, as well. Or some organizations post opportunities in English, but it's also a neat resource to find specific positions that you might be interested in. Finally, it's just circling back to thing I think that I mentioned earlier was my involvement. So that's the place where you can find opportunities across campus. And in that sense, it's that's where the student experience record is showcased to an extent. And now it will be hosted on My Future. But that's an official document recognizing your involvement outside of your classroom. So know that if you're planning on doing graduate studies, if you're, or if you even just want to document what you are doing in types of volunteering, there's ways of getting it officially recognized. So basically, of course, it's not mandatory, but if it's something that you're interested, there's different positions, notably those that we offer for orientation or to act as a mentor, for example. All of those experiences are recognized in this experience record. And you can ask, let's say, for a copy of that record at the end of your studies, and then use it either if you're applying for another program, if you're applying for a job, or if you really want to formally showcase the type of involvement that you were part of while you were at McGill. Now going to like that big event that is coming up. So again, after orientation, after your sessions, after you're starting to settle in, September 3rd and 4th, there's activities night. So going back to the slide we had earlier about SMU, the Student Society of McGill, they host this major event every year where almost, I would not say all clubs, but most of them, that over 200 and some clubs that offer opportunities at McGill have a table and offer them and do the recruitment and showcase what they are doing and whatnot. It's really worth taking a look. It's during over 2 days, September 3rd and September 4th this year. And it will be taking place at McGill Sports Complex and also in the main field of downtown campus, on the lower field. So again, it's worth taking a look. And again, the registration is for groups. For you as a student, you can just show up. And we do encourage you to do so. Again, just a little bit later in the month, on September 19th, with SMU, we will also be hosting the Community Engagement Day. So again, this is more to explore opportunities across Montreal. So a little bit more with a focus of things outside campus. Again, we're thinking of the MUHC or other types of venues where you can volunteer and whatnot. This is a good way to discover those organizations and also discover the types of volunteering that are offered. So again, September 19th, University Center is the SMU building. You will eventually get to know it, recognize it on its second floor from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. Finally, we wanted to end with a little bit of a testimonial. So going back to why do we get involved? So we have just for Chris, who was a PhD student in education. So you can read what he's saying, but he just found it really satisfying. So again, it offered different ways to gain experience with friends, meet other students, with colleagues. For him, it helped him with his research and obtain different perspectives. And we know that that's important, right? When you're doing a very research-intensive type of program, you can get to talk about your research with other people, and that helps. And just having this type of group, it also allows you sometimes to test your research, which is what happened for Chris. So, he was able to choose, and again, it was a very conscious decision of volunteering in a venue within his field of studies and sort of apply his research in a tangible way, which is also a very savvy way of seeing like real world impacts and see what his research could have as an impact, right? So again, for him, it really was a relevant experience that pushed his career forward. So this is an example of volunteering with a very intentional purpose, and that ultimately was providing greater satisfaction, different perspective, real world impacts, and career advancement. Now we have Ocean. So Ocean, who was doing environmental science. So after her first year here at McGill, she joined the reading club, donc les clubs de lecture, at McDonald campus. So she was a McDonald student. And again, for her, it was more a way of meeting friends. So she met other students like her who were passionate about reading, about books, about literature. And then it really gave her a sense of belonging. So again, this is another very fair way. It's here. The reason for her to get involved was to meet others who had the same interests as her, which is excellent. Excellent reason to get involved. Again, now we're sort of arriving to the section where we have questions. So we just wanted to address some that we often get again, just in hindsight. When can I sign up for volunteering? Honestly, at McGill, it's almost year round. If you know, like there's different things taking place at different times. Know that most often you can sign up for volunteering right at the beginning of the term. So again, we just showcased earlier activities night. That's where many clubs and organizations will be offering and showcasing different ways of getting involved. And then throughout the year, you can always join programs to either be a mentor, to be a peer supporter, or for example, for us, for orientation, we will be seeking volunteers, let's say around October, November for winter orientation for students who are starting in January. And we'll be looking for volunteers as early as March for students that start in September. So again, you can sign up at many different times of the year. And if you go into places like My Future, you can literally find opportunities that are open for recruitment year round. Again, can I only volunteer on campus? I would say no, actually, you can volunteer anywhere you want, like either on campus, off campus, across Montreal. I would say just like, again, going back to one of our first slides, why are you volunteering and how much time do you have? I think that's like the most important consideration, because in reality, you can volunteer anywhere that you would like to. If I go back to my experience, I was not from Montreal, so it allowed me just to really meet others. It was very intentional for me because I was a little bit shy back when I was a bit younger. Anyway, so I actually purposely chose to volunteer outside of campus just to get to meet other types of people, and that's what worked for me. So again, it's going back to what works for you, and if it doesn't work once, you can try again, right? So there's like volunteering is supposed to be also fun and like fulfilling in a certain way. How many clubs and groups? So that's an excellent question. I would say like you really have to consider the time allocation that is required. So going back to the types of volunteering, let's say if you're volunteering and you're ready to take on a role like as an executive, let's say can be a formal student association, it can be a group or whatnot. Again, it's something that I did at some point. And it's like, then sometimes it does require a lot of time. If you're, let's say, VP external, if you're VP internal, if you're like in charge of the finances of the group or whatnot, that commitment is a little bit more formal to an extent. So again, it's an important consideration, right? If you're volunteering, let's say, in like a venue that requires, let's say, a couple of hours a week, a couple of hours a month, plus volunteering as an exec, plus you're doing your studies, plus maybe you're also working, it becomes a lot. So again, the question of how many clubs and groups, it becomes really personal. And again, it's important to just consider it from the beginning. So that's why we're like showcasing it now. Like it's important to ask ourselves those types of questions, just to make the right choices and ultimately be satisfied, right? Because you don't want to be overwhelmed by like trying to juggle too many things. So again, it's like depending on the time that you can offer, and again, seeing it like in a long term. you might have less time this term, but you will have maybe more time in 2 years from now. And that's fair and that's fine, right? So things change. How many time should you dedicate? Goes back to the same question. So it's really about the time you can offer, to be honest. Um, Going back to, can I quit a volunteer position? So that's a very good question that we often get. And the answer is yes. I mean, you can quit a job, you can quit a volunteer position. You can, right? Like, I think like that, what we're going to emphasize is like, always think of the organizations that you're volunteering for. As we mentioned earlier, if you cannot make it anymore, just be open about it, communicate. And if you really see that you have to cut down the hours that you're volunteering there, just communicate it and be like very honest about it. And know that most organizations that host volunteers know that, they want you to be happy and like to enjoy your volunteering experience. And if you cannot give the hours that were required, most of the time that's fine. It's just that the key is communicating it, and of course just letting them know. What kind of roles are available? Again, we showcase it a little bit through the presentation, but there's more formal roles that require, weekly meetings, weekly commitments. There's more one-time types of roles, like the days of service one. You volunteer once for 3 hours, and that's it. You can volunteer again if you have time, but if not, that's fine. Then there's like emergency type of volunteering. It has happened before. Not to go back to the pandemic times, but there's times that there's emergency services needed. So again, that's like a one-time occasion. If you have time, you have the skills that are required, you can also volunteer. So roles are really different from one to the other. And that's what I had for now. So again, we are now open to questions. Moko, I don't know if there's anything that has been asked before. We can go through a few now, but yes.
Yes. We have one question in the chat right now. Chris is asking, which clubs and initiatives would you recommend joining for someone looking to go into the tech industry?
Actually, that's a very good question. So for tech, I think like tech can be large as well. Because going back to like an example we gave just for entrepreneurship and like startups, for example, that's really key. Like if something that is of interest to you, it's definitely something to consider. But of course, let's say if you're in engineering, there's a lot of clubs that are very specialized, like in robotics, for example, that are specialized in nanotechnology, in artificial intelligence, and so on and so forth. So yes, I would say, like, again, going back to what's really of interest to you within the tech sector, and I could almost guarantee there's going to be an option for you, or maybe different options for you of like the type of involvement that you want to have. And again, it's important to ask yourself: do you want to do it just to get a better sense of the industry, or do you want to get involved to get a better network? So these things to consider as well. Or let's say if you're doing research, is it to like get a hands-on experience on like robotics, for example, because that's your project and that's like what you're researching in. So again, you can direct also your efforts depending on what's like the core reason for your volunteering.
Awesome. We have two people who have their hands raised, so maybe
Yes.
I can unmute their mics. I'll start with Asto. I'm gonna unmute you. Should be working now.
Hello.
Hello?
Hi.
Hello, I have a question. Do you think one can join clubs while being in pre-med, knowing that the program is very bulky?
I'm really, really sorry. It's sort of cut off. Like I wasn't able to understand fully the question. I don't know, Momoko, if you
Yeah, I
had
think your mic might be muffled.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, so do you hear me? No?
It's still kind of muffled. You can also type your question into the Q&A if that's easier.
Okay.
Yeah. So sorry, but we'll answer.
Yeah, but we'll answer it.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, do you think you can join clubs while being in pre-med? Yes. So that's an excellent question, and it's actually a question that we often get from pre-med students. So I guess like for this specific group, it's something to really consider. So first of all, is like if the question is, do you think one can join? Yes, you can. Like anyone can join. It's like, but again, I think you have to base it on like the type, like the level of how busy you're going to be for your studies. So again, it varies from term to term, but I do know that it's recognized, right, for pre-med to have a little bit of involvement either in community groups, either in long-term care facilities, and so on. So if something that you're interested in, I would suggest just evaluating how much time you have to give, how much time, taking into account, of course, first and foremost, the studies, which are very demanding. I think we're all aware of that. But then just, let's say, if realistically you say, okay, I have all of this coming up, and I have all of these labs, practices that are coming up, I realistically can give, let's say, 3 hours a week or 2 hours a week. Then I would say, like, going back to our initial discussion, is like being intentional about that, and then seek positions that offer that. And for example, in places like the MUHC, there's a possibility to volunteer just for a couple of hours a week, and that's already of great help. So maybe as well, maybe just as piece of advice is like to maybe take away a little bit like the pressure, because sometimes there's like this pressure of getting involved and whatnot. But I would say like evaluate really the time that you have to give. But of course, you can if you have enough time. Yeah.
Just to quickly add on to that, I actually currently volunteer at the Chinese hospital through MUCH. And they're super, super flexible. Like I volunteer like 2 hours a week on Sundays. So even if you have a really heavy workload and are struggling with time management, like they're very flexible. So you can just do a few hours a week. I like volunteer with a lot of pre-med students. So I think check out their Instagram page. I definitely recommend.
Yeah. Excellent piece of advice. Thank you. I think there was another hand up, right? Or
I thought there were two, but now
okay.
I don't see any. I'll just check the Q&A.
Yeah. So I saw this. Someone answered the radio station. So yes, you can volunteer at the radio station. Yeah.
Someone's asking, is there any involvement in research but remote about the brain and psychology?
That's an excellent question. I don't think I cannot answer it right away, but if ever you need support into that, we can book an appointment with us, and we can look into that for you. I would say that we do know that there's possibilities of research volunteering. I guess like you can also go through your faculty as well, and the more you get to know either teacher advisors, your own professors and whatnot, they can also guide you into research programs, research projects that are being led. And it's also a good way, again, thinking of like where to gain experience. We go back to like the earlier slides. Ask people around you. So, and that includes your professors, just to be very clear. Like, again, some professors also know of, especially in research and science, and specifically, let's say for brain research, it's a good way to know like what, let's say, studies currently being undertaken. And, if they have a grant, sometimes it's not, you can be also paid for those, but otherwise there's also, they are always looking for volunteers for different types of research projects. Yeah.
Sure. I can also quickly speak on this because I'm in
Yes,
psych.
go ahead.
As like an undergraduate student, there are so many labs in psychology, like so many, like I can't even count how many there are. They always take volunteers. I think a lot of labs are starting to take people for the full semester. So I would recommend checking the psychology website, and then like they link all the labs and departments. You can go through like the psychology faculty. You can also go through the education faculty because they have like a psychology department and like counseling psychology. So they have labs too. I also recommend, as a psych student, getting involved with the MPSA, which is the McGill Psychology Student Association. I'm actually part of that association, so not to like plug it myself. But we organize events like roundtables with professors where like you get to like speed friend professors and talk about your research interests, and they can tell you if they have lab positions available. I also, like Victor said, I really recommend getting to know your professors, going to office hours. Something as small and simple as like going to a professor's office hours who's like class material you're really interested in can like lead to getting a volunteer position in a lab. So yeah, just as Victor has said in this presentation, keep like sticking with what you're interested in, and it will definitely lead you to opportunities.
Yeah. Excellent, Momko. Thank you. And we were lucky to have you as well, to have very hand-on experience of someone who's
For
very
sure.
involved. Yes. So now, just to answer another question, SMU clubs exclusively open to undergraduate students? That's an excellent question. Not all of them. So again, if you want to be, let's say, an exec in SMU, yes. As far as clubs, there's many clubs that are open for students across McGill, regardless of if you're a graduate or undergraduate. So we definitely, encourage to, again, look in what's of interest to you and see if they accept students from all backgrounds, as in graduate, undergraduate, and so on. But the answer is no, it's not exclusive per se. Yeah. And then, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, we have one in the Q&A. Are there any restrictions with some positions in terms of speaking French?
Excellent question. So the answer for that one is actually yes. So that we do recommend you, let's say if we think of My Future, where you have the opportunities board, or if we think of as some specific type of service that is requested, sometimes French can be mandatory. Know that McGill is an English-speaking university, so most opportunities are either bilingual or in English as well, but some are in French, and the reason is sometimes like the community they serve. So I'll give you a very concrete example. We do volunteering in a seniors home on the east side of the city of Montreal, which is more of the francophone part of the city. So again, the volunteer coordinator is bilingual, but most, I would say, if it's not 100%, but 99% of the residents speak French. So again, depending on the type of position that is being offered, let's say if it's to provide support on the background, let's say either with the logistics of an event or whatnot, that's fine. But they do require French, for example, if it's to provide direct care, or again, just to, even if it's social, because that's often done in senior residences, is just to have social events, just to have interaction, of course, and get that cognitive senses going, and just have a friendly face so they can speak to. So yes, sometimes there's that type of requirements, and it's just based on like the type of organization, right, and the type of clientele they are serving, and so on and so forth. But know that the same goes for other types of services, actually. So Montreal is a very diverse city with like groups from very different backgrounds, communities from that are a very wide range of communities. And so sometimes there's actually volunteering in other languages as well. There's to answer another question that I saw about learning, practicing French. Of course, there's excellent clubs, excellent venues that you can for you to practice French. Actually, us at Clay, for example, we actually offer language workshops that you can join for free throughout the semester. It's true that it was not part of this presentation. It's not a volunteering per se, but it's some things that you can join just to practice. So definitely a good way to do so. And also in other languages. So again, let's say if you're planning to go on an exchange to Europe and your exchange happens to be, I don't know, in Spain or in Germany and whatnot, there's clubs where you can practice also those language skills. So yeah, another neat way of getting involved. Again, thinking back to our recommendation, with intention, right? That, let's say in 2 years, you want to go on an exchange to Germany. Oh, well, intentionally, you will seek to get involved in like the German language club, or, so on and so forth. Yeah. Any other questions? I think we're good, eh? Okay.
Yeah, I'm not
Yes.
seeing any more in the Q&A.
Okay, perfect. So in that sense, we just want to thank you for joining us today. Again, if you have any other questions, I wanted to leave you with our contact information. You've seen it many times, I think, around, but know that we're here really to answer your questions. If you go to our website, mcgill.ca/CLE, you can have in our contact page a place to book an appointment. And there's appointments specifically for getting involved. So again, if you have questions, sometimes it can be, we have had appointments, let's say if you're ready enough to launch your own club and you do not know where to start. If you have questions about, I don't know, a sort of volunteer agreement that they are asking you to sign, for example, that happens for some type of volunteering opportunities, and you just need to like validate if that's something that's common. Book an appointment with us. We're here for that. You can, just suggest you to other services and whatnot. And otherwise, of course, you can email us, reach the Ask McGill service, and follow us on social media, of course. So on that note, thank you so much for being here, and we are eager to see you very, very soon, in a couple of weeks' time. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care.